So this will not be a fluffy workshop. This is going to be stuff that you can actually use to get started really quickly in getting your practice up and going. Um, the difference between Life Coach Training Institute and other schools, because I hear it a lot, I get that question a lot. What is different? The difference between us and other places. The difference really is this, is that I believe that any school you can learn coaching from. We're in a noble profession. There are amazing trainers and there's amazing coaches all over the world. So there's a lot of places that you can learn the competencies from. I'd recommend many of those places. The difference maker for us is our Jumpstart program. And it's because when I got out of coaching school, I had no idea how to start a business. I didn't know how to get my first client. I had done some role playing in school and this other kinds of things, but I wasn't sure that anybody would even ever work with me. How am I going to get started? And Jumpstart is where we're showing our students the A to Z, that we really give them a roadmap with business development tools, and I supplement it with a group coaching call every Wednesday where I work with those students. We also have an online coaching community where we are sharing feedback, resources. Every time someone's working on something that they want people to see or they want me to see, from business cards to logos to websites, all of these different things that we're working on together, because the difference maker for our students and other schools is ours actually know how to get clients. That's the real difference maker, because there are a lot of coaches who might be great coaches fundamentally, but they don't know the first step of, well, how do I actually get a client? And so we've really covered that here, because I'm not interested in you just getting certified and getting a certificate put on your wall. I want to see you get free. I want you to be successful. I want you to be able to say yes to the real desires in your heart. That's what we're all after as coaches when we work with clients. I want that as the least for the coaches who go through our program. And so there's two ways of getting certified through Life Coach Training Institute. You can take the online course. Many of you are in the free course. You can just add on the exam. You can take the Life Coach certification course. The advertised price is $195. Jumpstart includes certification, that same course, and it's $99 a month with 20 module business development roadmap, with the tools, with a group coaching call, all of that support. But here's the thing that I'm going to do for those of you who are in this workshop. If you're looking at the screen, so if you're interested in two things, the replay, because I'm going to talk about 100 miles an hour, you won't be able to take notes. It'll be really hard, but I'm recording this session, so you'll be able to go back and capture anything, because I'm going to show you what we do is not fluff. You're going to be able to take what we give you a taste of what we're really like. You're going to be able to take what you have out of here as practical strategy to move forward. So if you want a link to the replay, send me an email, paul@ilifecoachtraining.com. I'm going to also offer you who are listening a 35% discount. You just need to send me an email, because when we archive this thing, that discount code won't be useful anymore, because it will have expired. So just send me an email to paul@ilifecoachtraining.com, because the price difference drops that from $195, which is a real bargain, down to $127, or $99 a month, which has a 3-month minimum commitment. You notice how we price it really closely, because I want to motivate coaches to get the help. It'll drop that price down to $65 a month, and you can stay in there for 3 months or more. You just cancel if you're done after the 3 months is over with. But having said that, let's just jump and let's get rolling. 90 days from now, where do you expect that you will be? I put this on my business card. I say this to my clients. This is usually the way that people end up getting introduced to me. And there's a reason why I say that, because 90 days ago, you could have told me what you would be doing this week. Maybe not this particular workshop, because this might have caught you in the last week. But for the most part, you could have told me what you were going to eat, where you were going to be driving, what car you would be driving, house, the friends that you would have, the conversations that you would have. You probably would have gotten it with about 98, 99% accuracy. And there's a reason why, because you're a very powerful person, and you have a God-given ability to make choices that when you make them, they actually have an impact and you get what you're expecting. I don't ask people what they dream for. I ask them what they expect, because it's their choices that are going to be the difference maker for them. Not dreaming up stuff. Expectation means I'm going to make a choice, and this choice, I'm continuing to make this different choices that have a different outcome if that's what I want. That's how we work with coaches. And so I say this to my clients, and I'll say it to you. What would the boldest version of yourself do today? The boldest version. What decision would you make? Decision would you be making towards coaching and getting a practice started? Because if your boldest version of yourself would make a different decision today than the version that you're living into today, that means that fear is already reducing you. It's already reducing possibilities in your life. It's already reducing the expectations that you're going to have 90 days from now. And what I'm hoping today is I want today to be inspiring. I want it to be practical. I want it to challenge you. When I was thinking about you guys this morning, what I really hope for everyone, whether it's to ever do anything in coaching or do anything with us or whatever, is that you will take a step forward today, that you will make one choice that will be a difference maker 90 days from now. And I'm hoping to motivate you towards that today as we spend this little bit of time together. So let's get rolling. I want to encourage you that if you want to start a coaching practice, and why do I tell people that they can get started coaching even while they're working in a full-time job? Well, there's some really good reasons why. One is I want to encourage you that you don't have to go into debt to take this step. You do not have to go in the hole. You do not have to rent property. You don't have to go into great marketing expenses or any of those things. When I started my coaching practice, it was really the worst time in the world to try to start any new ventures, because when I got out to California, it was like 2007, and the real estate market had crashed. The house that I had bought in Florida was worth about half of what it was just a year prior, and we were crushed. So getting started for me meant that I didn't have any income. I didn't have any possibilities of getting a loan or any of those things to get started. And since I didn't have those possibilities, I had to find out new creative ways of going about it. When it comes to coaching, you don't have to go into debt to take this step. Matter of fact, I tell our coaches all the time in our Jumpstart program, you should be bringing home, starting out as a coach, at least 95% of what you make, if not like 98% of what you make. I never spent more than max $150 a month at the highest point with my coaching practice through the years, because I knew how to manage finances. And if you keep those expenses down, then you can really make and bring home a lot more. I'm going to show you how you get started and don't get into debt. You don't have to risk your family to take this step. I'll tell you about this later, but my wife was very ill when I began my coaching career. We had 2 kids at the time, and I needed to be home. I'd given up a previous career to get a regular job so that I could be home every night. And there were some non-negotiables for me, which meant that I was going to be home pretty much every night out of the week to be there for my family, because my wife needed the help. And I also didn't want to be away from my family all the time. A lot of times we're thinking about people who start new ventures, and it means that they're never going to see their family. That's not true with coaching. I want to encourage you with that. The coaching profession is the least risk of any startup. You're not going to go in the hole. You're not going to lose big time or any of those other things. And again, I'm going to show you how during this time. What I want to introduce you to is the concept of chicken entrepreneurship, because this is what I was. And it sounds terrible that we would call people a chicken, but honestly, for me and the personality type of most coaches, and I think most people, is that we are risk averse, meaning we're not really interested in taking big risk and throwing a bunch of money or throwing things up in the air and hoping that something happens out of it. Because I think that when most people think about entrepreneurs, they're thinking of somebody who does that. They took all of their money and they threw it in, and they either were going to sink or swim, and those are the stories that we know. Or the ones who risked their family. They lost their family working 80 hours a week trying to get a business up and going. And for me, those were never going to be options. for me, I believe that all coaches should, especially if they have a job. And the problem is, in many cases, is not just the job that we don't like what we're doing. Problem with our jobs in most cases is that it pays just enough to keep us there. And that was the case for me, is that it was paying just enough, but we really wasn't covering all of our expenses. We were always short, and I don't know how we managed it. And sometimes it meant eating peanut butter and jelly 3 times a day to try to make it to the next pay period or something. It usually does just enough. And with me, my wife's health was at stake. And so I needed to have insurance and all of those other kinds of things. And so I stayed where I was. But what I learned is that you actually can stay where you are and reap the benefits of the job that you're in. So you can actually keep the benefits and income of your current job while getting started, and you can create supplemental income. Because for me, I didn't have a goal of starting and going full time as a coach when I first started as a coach. I was just trying to think, listen, when it came down to my family and us not making it, I wasn't willing to sacrifice my family and be out every night of the week. But I also knew that I needed to try to create some margins. And listen, I would have flipped signs. I would have spun signs if that would have done it. But the reality was I needed to make more than $12 an hour, or even $25 an hour, or even $50 an hour to even justify it. And so for some of us, we may be comfortable in the job that we are in to some degree, but we want to start coaching. If your end game is just to create supplemental income, or it's to save until you go full time, either way, it really works. You can eliminate and you can minimize the risk that you would be taking as an entrepreneur while beginning to do what you love right now. And I want to encourage you that when I started my coaching practice, everyone knew that I was working a full-time job. That was not a credibility killer for me at all. And it also was not a problem for the people who wanted to work with me, for them to negotiate schedule with me, because I had irons in the fire Monday through Friday until almost 5 o'clock. And people would manage the schedule with me in order to work with me. It's an important thing, because a lot of times people think, well, I don't have any credibility if I'm not full time. That's not true. There's a lot of people who are working side jobs or have dual careers going in this day and age, and this is not a credibility killer for you. My final year of chicken entrepreneurship, so I'm still working my full-time job and I'm working part-time as a coach. I gross between $10,000 to $12,000 per month. And I want to encourage you with this. I never really worked more than 10 hours a month in my coaching practice. That's a fact. In my regular job, I was working, 40 some odd hours a week. And there was a time when my coaching income surpassed my income at my work. And I finally made the decision at that point that it's like, because I was really comfortable. I finally made the decision at that point. It's like, you know what? If I even was able to work 5 more hours a month or 10 more hours a month, I could easily double my income again if I was able to leave this. But no hype on this. I was $10,000 to $12,000 a month while I was working both jobs at the same time. So where do we start? Well, the first place that we start, because I got a lot of your questions on this thing, and a lot of the questions revolved around time. And here's what I would tell you: is you don't need a lot of time. What you do need is productivity, because all of us, regardless of what our bank statement says right now, we are all equal in one thing: rich or poor. Find me the most famous person in the world or the least famous in the world, and they're all equal in one thing, and that's time. We all get 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. I don't need a lot of time to get my business up and going as a coach. What I do need productivity, meaning the time that I do take towards my business actually has an outcome. It equals something. And so the focus of your time has to be on income producing activities. I need to know that this thing equals income. This thing that I do equals getting a client. This thing that I do over here equals somehow in my business. And if I know what those things are and I focus on those activities, then I will become successful as a coach. I don't need 20 hours a week to start out as a coach. So what are the income producing activities? I'm going to give them to you. There are these 4 things right here. It's networking and marketing, meeting with clients and potential clients. It's following up with potential clients, and it's miscellaneous tasks like busy work, email, and text. Notice in this top four, I did not say writing blogs. I didn't say writing free books to give away to people and things like that. I'm not saying that on in the beginning stages because I'll find some coaches who, if they don't have clients, it's because they're wasting their time doing things that do not equal getting a client. When you first launch your website, you're lucky if you have 5 people who are looking at that at the very beginning. And it's just because no one, it's a brand new domain name, it's a brand new website or whatever. And so some of these coaches who are running around and they're writing blogs every day, and the only people who are reading them is possibly their spouse and their mom. That's not an income producing activity. It doesn't mean that you can't make income after doing those things at a later time. But when you first start out, you need to know the things that you've got to get done that actually equal business. Don't waste your time doing activities that don't equal business. Do the right things in getting started. Networking and marketing does not mean that I'm going to get billboards and spend a bunch of money doing that. It means that there is a network. I'm going to show you how to do that. There is a network of people that I am working with that are constantly open the doors for me to clients. And I need to just be known, and I need to just work relationally because we're in a relational business for those things to happen. I need to meet with clients. If I meet with a client, then I'm going to get paid, right? So that's an income producing activity. And I'm going to meet with potential clients. And in the beginning, you're probably thinking, well, I don't have any potential clients right now. I want you to not worry about that right now because the fact is, and I'll give you an example. When my daughter started college, she had left really early that morning. She'd gotten up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. She'd done all of this preparation and everything else. She hardly slept that night, but she had it planned to be at school an hour before it started. Make sure she got parking and everything else. Google Maps messed her up. She ended up getting to her class like 20 minutes late. And when I saw her at the end of the day, I was like, "Hey, how'd your first day go?" And she was like crying. And I was like, "Hey, listen, you did the hardest thing. You started. We all have to start. We don't know." And that's usually the barrier that keeps people from doing anything, coaching or anything they want to do, is that starting feels like you feel inertia, you feel something against you. The hardest thing that you will do is start. As soon as you start, then there's a momentum. But you have not, you know what? The hardest thing that you will ever do is not starting a coaching practice. The hardest thing that you'll ever do is be in a relationship with someone, like a spouse, or in a romantic relationship with someone, or if you have kids, that will probably be the hardest thing that you'll ever do. And none of you had any experience in doing that before. When you started, you just started. And it was your passion that carried you many of those days in the beginning and helped you get through sleepless nights and all of those other things. Listen, coaching is not nearly as hard. You've already done the hardest things in the world to do. Now it's time to allow your passion to actually carry you into action towards some things. So number 3, income producing activities, following up with potential clients. It's huge. It's a huge issue that I see amongst business people, people who are in sales, but even coaches, that if you have 85% of your work is going to be getting someone in front of you to have an initial session. Maybe it's a complimentary session, but you've got to follow up with that person. And don't wait weeks. Don't wait on them to call you back. Don't set it up like that. You need to actually have a plan for following up with them. And I will tell someone when I meet with them, if I don't close them in that first session, and we do in Jumpstart show you how to have an explosive first coaching session, so that in that 30, 45, 60 minutes that you spend with them, that they will come out of the end of that with real action and they can see the benefits and value of working with you. But if they're not ready to be closed, I will set it up that I will be talking to them in the next 3 days. I'm going to allow them to go home, but I don't want them to get in a different emotional state. I want them to still be connected to that process, to still be feeling those feelings of what it was like. And so you've got to follow up with people. So that's number 3. And then number 4 are just miscellaneous tasks, because you will be returning texts, phone calls, emails, all of that. Now you've got to get a routine. And I know some of you, because some of you were saying, well, I have kids, I'm already working. listen, you have to plan your day beforehand. You can't, if I'm going to work on my business, let's say Thursday evenings, I have a plan to work on my business. I need to know what I'm going to do before I get to Thursday. I can't wait until Thursday, and as soon as the clock strikes that moment, and then I'm like, well, what could I do for my business? That is a time waster, and it's a time killer, and it'll kill your productivity. So plan before you get to that time. You need to look at your week and decide how much time and what days and times each one of these activities is going to get done. Let's say I'm going to do networking on Tuesday. Let's say that I'm going to meet with a potential client before I go to work on Thursday. Because for some of you who are thinking, well, I don't know if I have time to do this, let me tell you, I was the only income in our family. I worked 40 hours a week, and I wasn't going to be out every night of the week, but because I had a plan for when I was going to get things done, I coached one of my first clients. I coached him on Tuesdays at 4:45. I would leave work at 4:30. I would rush to beat some of the traffic, and I got to a coffee shop that was within walking distance of my house, and I would coach him for an hour, and then I would go home. I had another client that on Thursdays, they lived in Indiana. I would do a phone coaching during my lunch hour. So it wasn't taking me away from my work, and it was my regular leisure time at work. I would coach that person, and then I would go back to work. I had another client that I met on Saturday mornings at 6 o'clock in the morning. And again, people who, it's not a credibility killer that you work full time. I had a client who was a busy professional, and they worked on Saturdays, and I would coach them at 6 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. And they would go to work, I would go home. My kids hadn't even gotten up on a Saturday morning yet. So it didn't take me away from my family. So that's the question that I would have for you. Do you have one morning out of the week that you would get up maybe a little bit earlier and you would coach someone? Do you have one lunch hour free out of the week? Do you have a couple of hours out of the month that you could spend to just get out and network and build some relationships with people? I believe that we all have that kind of time. And here's why I believe that. I'm adding to this to keep your time promises, that whenever you say that you're going to do something, you've got to follow through and do it. For the sake of your business and for the sake of the things that you want, you have to fulfill, you have to do what you said that you were going to do. And the last thing is this, and this is what I was about to say: disconnect from instant access to your time. Listen, this thing right here is a gift, and it can be so strategic for productivity. Calendars and texting can save you so much time where you don't have to call people and all of those other things. There's a lot that you can do here. But it's also one of the biggest productivity killers for a number of reasons. For one, because most people steal from your day all the time. And we think of them as friends and people who like us. But I literally, when I'm coming into this workshop a few minutes ago, I had an individual who was texting me and sending me a bunch of messages when I was coming in here. And listen, no offense to them, but they don't realize that my time is my product. It's my money. So you know what's happening is that right now on your phones, and some of you may be scrolling through your phone while you're on this. I'm going to get you right here. Listen, you need to turn those notifications to Facebook and Twitter and all that social media off, because those people are probably not taking steps towards their destiny, and they are eating up your productivity. If I just had your Facebook and social media time every day, I could probably build an empire, because I've never worked that many hours towards my business. You don't realize how much time you're just spending scrolling aimlessly through the same news feed when you could be building your business. Turn those distractions off. Set parameters. Here's when I'm going to check my email every day. Here's when I'm going to check my texts. Here's when I'm going to do these kinds of things. My kids, my wife, they have access to me for emergency things anytime they need. But they know, because I share a calendar with them, here's when Dad is doing these things. Here's when I'm going to be gone. Please don't interrupt me during this time unless it's absolutely necessary. They have access to interrupt me, but they won't, because they honor their time, because I value my time first, and I honor it and I protect it. If you're going to get paid for your time, you better start valuing it now. If you don't value your time enough to shut Facebook off, I have concerns that you're not going to be productive enough to do this thing well. But start honoring yourself now, because that time you're going to start getting paid $150, $250, $350 a session for that 1 hour of your life. So start honoring it now and treating it really as a sacred time, because it really is. So we get the routine. We have to starting our network. How do we do that? Well, let me show you this picture right here. And for those of you who can't see it, I'll just describe it to you. What we have is a pyramid. This is how business gets done. It starts with trust. Trust is the biggest portion of the pyramid. It's not just a little foundation. It's actually a big part of the structure is trust. Second part is likability. The third part is expertise. Most coaches, when they get started, they're saying, man, if I could get enough credentials, if I could get enough training, if I could get enough this, that, and the other, then I'll have a level of expertise that people will start working with me. And maybe they would actually believe that I was a credible coach. That's not actually how business gets done. And I'll give you an example of how business actually works, because we're in a relational business. This is not just trying to sell a product. Here's how it goes. If your car broke down and you don't have anybody to work on your car, what do? You turn to your existing relationships of trust and you ask the question, do you know anybody who works on cars? And they will set you up with someone that they trust. What are you asking? Do you have anybody that you trust, that you're already in a relationship with, that I know I can trust, that won't fix something that doesn't need to be fixed, that will not overcharge me? There's all of those things. We turn to our relationships of trust because these are the people that we believe all I need to do is find somebody who can solve my problem. As long as I can trust them and they have shown a certain level of expertise that they can solve my problem, I will work with them. And here's the funny thing about getting your car repaired. The most expensive thing that you'll probably buy in your life is a house. And the second most expensive thing that you'll buy is probably a car. And cars will range anywhere from 100,000 to, 5 or 10,000. For me, I've never been a person who went out and bought brand new cars. I've never done that. But for the people who do, it's any range of that. So you've got the second most expensive thing that you would own in your life. And what do? You don't ask, is this person a certain certified mechanic? Well, how long have they been working on cars or whatever? We don't ask those questions. We ask, who do you trust? And who's shown a certain level of expertise to solve the problem. So we will let our next door neighbor start tinkering around underneath our car that we're going to be driving some 70, sometimes 80 miles an hour on a freeway with all of this other traffic, putting ourselves and our family at risk. Why? Because it's about trust. It's not about a bunch of credentials. Now, we believe in training. And I believe in getting certification. It's in the name of our company, and it's what we do. But people who work with you are not going to be asking about all of those things. They're looking for people who they can trust, that they like, that has shown some certain level of expertise and their authority in some kind of way to be able to help us with our problems. That's why we build a network, to show that we are trustworthy, that we are likable people, and we become an authority. We become a go-to person in that network, and then those people want to work with us. So how do you build a network? Well, let me help you understand what a network is you list every person that you know. Every person that you know is in your network. Not just a few people here and there, not just people who are in business, but every person that you know. Because the people in your network are not just people who are potential clients. That would be a wrong thinking about it. What we want to list is people who can open the door for us. So the people that we list in our network, we may never work with them. They may not ever be in our niche or any of those other things, but we are listing every person that we know, regardless of the depth or the superficiality of relationship. I want to list every person that I know. Now, when I put these people in, it should be a minimum of 100 people. And again, these people are not just potential clients. These are people who can open the door, meaning this person knows people. So I may know 100 people. They may know 100 people. So what have I done? I've doubled my reach. I've doubled my connections. So I'm going to have a minimum of 100 people. You should probably have more than that, but I'm going to have a minimum of 100. And these are the kinds of people that you're going to see in your network. Friends and family, current coworkers, former coworkers, former bosses. I actually had my the boss that I had at the time when I started my coaching practice, I actually let him know what I was doing. I wasn't afraid. And I know some of you are not in a relationship like that with your bosses, but for me, I wanted his help. I wanted him to know that I'm going after things. Hey, I'm taking a vacation day to go take on this coaching workshop. I'm taking a few vacation days to go get certified and things like that. And so when I did those things, what I have found all of these years, because I continued to be a first class employee, he still to this day opens the door for me as an individual, because I always gave him 100%, but I also was a brilliant coach and I allowed him to be part of that network. So these are the kinds of people that you see in your network. You're also going to think about people that you probably don't think about them as being part of your network, because they're just people that you do business with. You're the customer for them. So think of people like doctors, CPAs, pastors, teachers, leaders. All of these people are connected to hundreds of people, and they have deep relationships of trust. So they've usually worked with the same people for years. So if they say something, there's a lot of credibility. You get to borrow off of their trust and off of their relationships. So these are the kinds of people that we add into our network. Now, here's the next thing is that you're going to email, you're going to send a letter, you're going to send text, you're going to send social and media announcements to these people. And here's what you're going to include. You're going to include these things. You're going to include why you're doing what you're doing. Why is that important? Here's the reason why it's important. The reason why this is important is that most people don't do what's in their heart to do. They're not doing what they're passionate about doing. How do I know that? Gallup does a study every month. They test engagement on employees. Do you realize that only 30%, less than 30% of any individual employee's day is spent 100% engaged in what they're doing? Meaning that they're creatively engaged, that they are cognitively engaged, that they're strategizing, they're thinking about stuff, that they are fully engaged and fully, because you know when you've been in the zone, right? Like, this is a good test of our passions. If you've ever done something and you lose track of time because you're so engaged and you're so loving what you're doing, it's like you're energized by it, and no one has to tell you to do it. You're just in it. No one has to coach you or coax you into doing it. You do it. Well, less than 30% of anybody's day is spent like that. More than 70% of our day is spent doing things that we don't care about doing and doesn't touch the deepest places in us. I mean, how much money are companies leaving on the table every day because they have people who are working jobs that they have problems they need to solve that would bring in business, but they don't have people who are even engaged. This is why it's important as a coach to include in your messaging overall why you do what you do. For me, it wasn't just about money for me when I got into coaching. I think it's important for coaches because coaches are passionate about what they do. And it's usually a defining moment in their life that turned on the light bulb, and people started telling them, and some of you listen to this, you've been told this, you need to be a coach. Or there's something that happened that was life altering or life changing. And you were like, I want to help people. I want to help people take steps forward in their life. I know I'm speaking to some of you in this. For me, it was this. 1 year into my marriage, my wife was diagnosed with a chronic illness. And as the years are progressing, my career was skyrocketing. Her health was like declining every year. And I never forget, we were living in Florida at the time. For my Orlando friend who's on the call, we were living in Orlando. My wife checked into Orlando Regional Medical Center for a gallbladder surgery. They said, we're going to nip this thing off. We'll keep you overnight, then you'll go home. We thought that we were just going to be in for 24 hours. We ended up being in for about a month, and it was touch and go. And I remember staying up most of the night trying to just, it's a very humbling experience to watch the lung capacity and watch these devices as your wife is trying to sleep and is oblivious to everything that's going on. They opened her up 3 times while we were in there. The third time they opened us up, they put us on the floor that hadn't been remodeled. It's the floor that is really ugly because it's all people on life-sustaining devices, and there's just sounds of death and code blue and machines going off and everything else. And when they were putting her on that floor and I saw that room, I knew she was going to be out for a while, and I knew she could not wake up in that environment. And I rushed home and I got flowers, I got pictures of our kids and get well cards. And what I did is I staged the room so that regardless of where her head was on the pillow when she opened her eyes, that she would not see life-sustaining devices. She wouldn't even see the things that she was hooked up to. What she would see is a vision and purpose for why we are here. That whenever she would open her eyes, she would see beauty and not be reminded of the circumstances. I couldn't allow her circumstances to speak louder than the hope and the expectation of the future. See, because I think that that's what that crushes people, is that if I knew if she was going to walk, we were going to walk out of there and there was any hope of survival and change, she needed to be reminded of why we're here. And see, I think that most people get exhausted and they give up on their dreams and they're working jobs where 70% of their time is doing something they hate. They're working for a paycheck. They're giving up most of their life doing something they don't like, living for a paycheck to get to the weekend, and that's no way to live. And I don't allow people to settle that I work with. I didn't settle in my life. We had come to the end, and I remember when I said, when we walk out of here, we will never do life the same way. For the people who are living in the fog and their circumstances keep informing them of their future, all they need is a coach to walk alongside them, to tell them where due north is. If the fog's too thick and there's an obstruction in the way, then we show them a way above, around, or right through the barrier to help them get there. It's why I do what I do. It's why people work with me and they are compelled by my life. Because if I can say yes in spite of these circumstances, then you can say yes. You can't give me a better reason and give me a sadder story for not going after something in your life, because I've been through it. I believe that coaches in most cases have that defining moment, and many of you are sitting on the precipice right now. You're looking at the edge, and we're one choice away from it. So this is why we include it in our messaging. Why we do what we're doing, because most people do not have a good why behind their why. And this is why we keep it in our messaging. Here's the next thing you include. You include what you do. Not that you're going to go in crazy detail about what coaching is, because I don't believe that anybody could ever understand what coaching is. They have to be shown. It's an experience. And when they experience you, then they know that they can work with you. But you include that in your messaging because we want people to know that this is not counseling or a regular advising role. We include who we help. Why? Because we want people to open the doors to us, to the right people. So if you want to work with women in business, women entrepreneurs or something like that, then you include it in your messaging. That way they're not introducing you to someone who does not fit that place. We do this in Jumpstart really well. We spend a lot of time helping you do discovery and decide what your target market is, and then your niche. This is this next part of your messaging. What problems you help people solve. This is really important because even though you could work with anybody, it doesn't mean that you should. We help our students discover what their target market is and their niche. They're different things. I know who I'm going to work with. What things am I trying to bring to them? So like in our Jumpstart program right now, we have relationship coaches, we have business coaches, we have people who are doing health and wellness, we have people who are doing spiritual life coaching, we have an academic life coach. What we're doing is that we've decided on the niche. I know who I want to work with, but these are the problems that I help people solve, or these are the desires and wants that people have who work with me. You may have a couple of niches, but the thing is that if you can decide on these things, who you help and what problems that you help people solve, then it's much easier for people to open the doors for you. So if they're looking and like I see Sharon on the call. If Sharon is working with women who have taken a step towards independence later on in life or something like that, they've had dreams, they've already had children or something, but now they're going to take new steps in their life because that season of their life is over with, then I need to have it in my messaging so that that door can be opened. That way when people think of someone, when they see them, they make the connection and they're like, wait, I know a person who would be perfect for you. And so this is how we do it. Now, here's the last part of that message that you're going to send to people. You're going to ask. You're going to ask to be introduced to two people. And this is what we're doing is we're asking for a referral. You have to not be afraid to ask. Would you introduce me to two people, and look at how the messaging is? I'm gonna read it word for word. This is one of the things that I always used. Would you introduce me to two people who have experienced some success in business, but have maybe a thing or two in the way that's keeping them from the next level of success? Why is this important? Who does Paul work with? People who work in business. That could be anybody. What other people? People who have experienced some level of success. Because I can remember people trying to send people to me who were struggling in business. And I don't want to work with people struggling in business because they can't pay for a coach. They don't have a mindset of success. Sometimes I'm looking for people who have experienced success. They already believe that they have taken some steps. They haven't figured it all out, but they've experienced some level of success. But there's one thing or two things that they know that are getting in the way, that are keeping them from the next level. I want to work with those kinds of people. So the messaging is really important. And I didn't have that starting out. I was basically trying to work with people who had a pulse, and but I corrected it as I go on. But this is the way that you start, right? Now, here's what my experience was in that. I gave out 15 free sessions out of that 100 people. Most were not in my target market, but here's what I did get out of this. I got practice, because the only thing that I'd ever had was role playing in coaching school, which was helpful, but it wasn't like, and we do offer that in Jumpstart. You can role play with other students who are in that program, who are in the program. But the thing is that I didn't feel like I'd had success. I didn't feel like I'd had really like I'd a real person in front of me, that I walked through with something. I did get I did leverage every one of those people for testimonials. So it's at least smart enough that if I'm working with these people, hey, I knew they weren't going to work with me, but they had experienced my coaching and they saw that it was something worthwhile. So I asked every one of them. I was like, you know what? I don't have a track record on this. Could I get a testimonial? So all of them, and they were more than willing to do this, wrote me like 3 to 5 sentences that I could borrow off from to put on my website right afterwards. Now, what else? I asked them for more referrals. Who better knows you and what your service can do except for people that you've given sessions to? So even if you're in practice stage right now with people, you should be asking those people for referrals. That's called reciprocity. When I give something to someone, they're wanting to return the favor to me. Don't just give free sessions. Know that there's something that you need to be asking to get out of it. Now, what was the final part of my experience? Well, 3 people were serious and became clients. Another one was caught in the crossfire. I literally had a guy who was observing me coaching someone. And when they came up to me, they were like, hey, I'd like to talk to you about coaching. And because he observed what I was doing. And I'm like, I was so clueless. I thought the guy wanted to get into coaching. And I'm thinking, I don't know anything about this. And the funny thing is that as we kept talking, then I realized that he actually wanted me to coach him. And so he became a 4th client, only because, remember when I said about momentum? Once you get started, things start coming to you. It started attracting things. And so I had 4 clients that came out of this. Now, if you notice something, I didn't sell anyone. All I did is I got my messaging together and I used relationships, and I showed people in my network how my service could benefit them. I showed them value, and I instantly had $1,000 a month of clients. Now for you, and again, I'm not hyping this thing. I didn't start with $30,000 a month or something crazy like that. I was very insecure and not sure if anybody would even pay me to work with them. And I started out like this. And I don't know if that's a big amount of money. It may not be for you. For me, $200 a month would have been a difference maker for us because the margins were so tight. And that was in October, when I got my business really up and going. We had some delays, school start in like Labor Day, and there were some things that my kids still needed for school. And my wife thrift store shop. She did all of that stuff. We're still very frugal to this day. But being able to say yes to what my kids needed as a man, I'll tell you that meant everything. It was breath for us. But this is realistic kinds of things that I want to tell you, that this is not the hardest thing that you'll ever do. There are steps that you take, and we can show you what those steps are if you really want this life. 30 minutes of marketing, zero selling, and zero overhead to start out with $1,000 a month. All right. So what are the things that you need? Time management, building a network, business cards. Start out with 250 to 500. Just don't use Vistaprint.com. Those templates are so overused, and the business cards look really cheap. It just doesn't help you, because first business cards I got, I found several other business owners who used the exact same template as me, and it was kind of embarrassing. Get a fresh, unique design, and there's a way that you can do this really cheap. There's a website called Fiverr, Fiverr.com. You can get someone to design your business card for $5, because you're often helping entrepreneurs who are in other countries and different places, and sometimes college graphic design students who are using that as a source of income. So you're helping them, and you're getting a professional designer, and you're getting a unique design. This is a way to separate yourself from everyone else. Make sure your business card, don't waste that real estate. I know real estate companies, if you look at those, as a little headshot and usually a person's name and their number, and it says real estate agent. Well, I don't know about you, but it doesn't tell me anything about who they work with and all of those other kinds of things. You can use that little bit of real estate to tell people what you do and who you help. Don't waste that. Don't just say I'm a life coach on your business card. We work with our students in Jumpstart to help them come up with names and a 1-minute pitch and all kinds of things, so that someone can know what you do and who you help within 30 seconds to a minute of talking to you. Your real estate on that little bitty business card should help you in that process to say something compelling, and can also open the door, so that when people look, if they got handed that business card, they still know what you do and who you help. You can really utilize this. Here's the next thing. Get a website. LCTI grads get a free listing on lifecoachmatch.com. It's our directory that's normally $75 a year, but we give it to our students for free. I'll show you that really quick if you've never been there. This is at lifecoachmatch.com. You can do a country search, a city search, state. You can search by fee. You can search by gender. Yes, we do have people all over the country and all over the world. So you'll see England. You'll see places like Maryland. Here's Texas, Georgia. You'll literally find people all over the world who are in here. And so people can search by country. So for those of you who are outside the U.S., which is 30% of our students, you're covered in that. Here's one of our coaches, Tara. She's in Minnesota. These are all the things that you can put in here. Name, city, state. You can put your email, your website, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, about you, focus areas, specialties. You can put you can embed a video on here from YouTube. So it's a real robust tool that we give away for free. Here's a link to her website. These are things that Tara is doing. Look at all the people she's worked with. Huffington Post, iHeartRadio, Wall Street Journal. I'm so proud of our student success. And so I love seeing these kinds of things. I want to show you another one. This is Kirsten Frosch. She works as an academic coach and consultant. So she's found a way to use coaching as an add-on. So this is one of her, this is her website on here. You can see us listed under her stuff down here. But I'm just so proud of seeing our students taking these steps and being really successful and doing what they love. So this is a freebie that we give you as for just getting certified through us at any level. Go to GoDaddy.com or Wix.com, Wix.com. You can get a professional template for $5 a month. And you don't have to put a lot on your website. Just include these things. Include who you are. You can embellish that. You can include why you do what you do. Again, it's that same messaging. Who you help, what problems that you help people solve. And the other thing is that you need to include contact info. I guarantee you today, if you did a Google search for coaches, life coaches, you would not find this messaging on there. They're usually sites that are missing all of the most important elements. Because when you go on there, ask these questions. Well, who does this person work with? What is their niche? What kinds of problems do they help people solve? And can you find contact info front and center where people know how to take the next step and contact them? These are the things that you need to include on your website. Get a phone number. Don't just use your cell number. Get a separate phone number for your business, so that you can allow that voicemail, if you can't answer your phone, to be able to capture it. Now, most of you have Gmail accounts. I know because I see your email. If you have a Google account, a Gmail account, and that's about 75-80% of you, go to google.com/voice. You can get a free local phone number on there. So you pick the number, you can have that number ring to your phone, or you can just have it go there. You can make free calls to your own country through that, through your own headset, through your computer. You can call through your phone on it. But what it does is that it will take that voicemail, it will transcribe it to you, it will email you an MP3 of it so you can listen to it, or it can transcribe it and send you a text with the body of the message so that you don't have to log into another system. This is an incredible resource that's free that you can get set up today to take that step towards your business. And the last thing is, some of you believe that you need more resources. And I know plenty of coaches who don't even have computers or websites or whatever, and they're doing fine. But if you feel like you need stuff like, I need a new phone, my computer's all jacked up and it's old, talk to look at the company right now that you work with or business. In most cases, even if you've got a friend or your spouse or something like that, in many cases, the discount that company is getting from like a computer company or whatever will be extended to you. So it's a way that right now you can take advantage of those things. So that's the conclusion of that. Again, I said a lot. If you want a link to the replay, paul@ilifecoachtraining.com, and I'll send you that if you're interested in the discount. And again, the discount's 35%. It's normally $195, which is a small fraction of the price than what other schools charge. Reason why is that everything's on demand, and we're able to cut all of those administrative costs, and we pass that on to you. And so $195 gets you certified. With that 35% discount, it's only $127. So there's no excuses. You're not going to go into debt to take that step. If you want to do Jumpstart, it includes that same life coach certification course, but it includes the 20-module business development roadmap. We show you everything from how to attract clients, how to develop your personal brand, 1-minute pitch, how to sell, how to have an explosive first coaching session, how to answer objections. We give you tools for all of this. We also have a ton of resources on here. We have more than a year's worth of group coaching calls. I do a live group coaching call every Wednesday to get you past the barriers of anything that you're struggling with in your business or as a coach, whatever you're having that barrier at. And if there's something that somehow we didn't cover or you wanted us to elaborate on, we do that. We have an online community. We have like 75 coaches who are currently in this program at any level of the program. And there's great people who are coaches who will role play with you. We have a tool that they use so that they can really encourage you in whatever ways that you need, places that you need to work on your coaching. You want to share resources with one another. You want to share what you're working on. Ask questions in the middle of the week. It's a dynamic program, so we add new things every week. We archive every call. If for some reason you can't make a call, you can still ask your questions, and we record those things every week, and we timestamp it so you can go right to your question. And these are the ways that we support you, and you will know what steps you need to take. You will be supported. And the fact of the matter is that for everyone listening to this, you know the next step that you need to take. Don't allow fear to reduce you anymore. What would the boldest version of you do right now? Well, do that. That's your next step. That's the next choice that you should be making. So having said that, let's take questions. I will spend the rest of the time, and I have some that were preloaded that you guys sent ahead of time that we'll go back and forth, and I'll answer those, and I'll answer questions from the everybody who's live. I will stay with you for as long as you need me to stay with you. If you've got to go, I understand. If you have feedback from today, send it to paul@ilifecoachtraining.com. Any follow-up questions, send it there. That if you don't feel comfortable asking them here, or if you want the discount or a link to the replay, paul@ilifecoachtraining.com. Let's get into some questions though. let me look into the chat widget really quick. Uh, Lori says, do listings have individual URLs? Yes. As soon as you set up your profile in lifecoachmatch.com, you will have your own unique URL for your page. And if you do get a website in the future, or Facebook or any of those things, you can always put those things under there. But every listing has its own URL. So it will be lifecoachmatch.com/ whatever you put in there as your username. That's how people can find you on there. Kim says, hey, Paul, I'm going to get into the Jumpstart program tomorrow. That's excellent, Kim. Thanks. What other questions do we have? And if I don't get one live, and again, let me unmute everyone just in case I have you muted. You'll have to unmute yourself locally or use the chat widget, and I'll answer any question that you have. Okay, here's one coming in on the chat widget. Mo says, is the program or course accredited? Yes, it is. You'll see that at the bottom footer, the International Association of Certified Coaches. So that is our accrediting body. There's a number of accrediting bodies. If I give you the lay of the land as far as coaching is concerned, most coaching programs are really small. They certify between 1 and about 30 people a year. For us, we're able to have an international reach. And so, like I said, in Jumpstart alone, we have about 75 students concurrently enrolled, but it's normal for us to have, anywhere between 25 to 75 students a month who are getting certified through our program. So we're much bigger, but it's also because we're able to have a much more extensive reach. But for the most part, most schools are really small. Most coaching bodies are really small because because it's still a new thing. And so there's very few coaches. There's literally only thousands of certified coaches. So even in your city, in your region, it is an untapped market, because every day, if you notice in your city, there's always somebody new getting a real estate license, even though there's, maybe 1,000 real estate agents in your little city. But there's very few coaches, and you're not trying to coach, out of your town of whether it be 5,000 or 500,000. You're not trying to coach 1,000 people a year. All you really need, and if I showed you my coaching fees workshop, you only really need between 2 to 6 clients a year to really make it as a coach. And you can find that in any big or small place that you're in. Tracy says, what is the biggest thing you wish you knew at the beginning of your coaching that you know now? That it's mostly business more than it is all of the other things. What we've done in Western education, and I know that we have some people on the call who may not think of themselves as part of Western education or whatever. We are the only people in the world, seemingly, where you can go to a college and you can get a master's degree in business by someone who has never done business before. And I think that coaching is so academic for most people that you'll go in and you're learning all the skills, and it's pretty academic. I'll tell you that the coaching world is pretty academic in the way, at least when it comes to training. But I'm concerned about the coaches, and why we did Jumpstart. I'm concerned about the coaches who have all of the skills and they have all of the personality and everything that it takes to become a great coach, but they need the right steps to move forward. And I just accidentally found it. And honestly, for me, I didn't find it in the coaching world that helped me at all. It was unhelpful to start my business. So I had to draw from a lot of sources. I had to draw from people who were really good at selling, even though I didn't want to be salesy. I had to learn from them. I had to learn from sources of people who were speakers, people who networked, because I didn't know what I was doing, and I knew that I was fumbling really bad when I first started, because it's like, I can't even explain what coaching is. How am I going to do a 1-minute pitch? So that's why we've put those things together in Jumpstart, is I really believe that we're addressing everyone, because it's normal to be nervous. It is normal to be terrified starting this thing. So don't think that you're crazy, anybody who's listening to this, or thinking that you're the only person who's afraid of doing that. Listen, it's not about fear. Everybody's got fear. It's what you do in spite of it. And it's being bold. Boldness does not mean absence of fear. Boldness means that here's a choice that I'm going to make in spite of what I'm feeling. And so that's what I believe that we've addressed. That's what Jumpstart really came out of, is that when we first launched Life Coach Training Institute, we were just doing the certification piece, but I always had students who were like, well, what do I do next? And you try to do something on the side and try to help individuals, but I'm like, you know, I know this stuff. It's just time to put that in action. That was a big step and maybe a risk-taking moment even in my life. It's like, I've got a successful practice up here, but I love coaches and I love our profession. What if we took this step and we made something that could really help coaches? So I believe that that's what I've addressed. I had terrible fear. It was never a situation where I was not competent enough as a coach. Um, competency comes, and some of that confidence just comes with experience. Getting more training doesn't deal with it. It was literally those practical steps. If I'd had that, um, I wouldn't have, and I didn't flounder immediately, but I could have gotten things going even faster than I did, if I would have had those things. Um, Annabella says the Jumpstart enrollment, is this in US dollars? I'm from Canada. Yes, you're correct. Everything that I quoted is in US dollars. So forgive me for not thinking about that. Usually I'll say US dollars, but I didn't today. Forgive me. Sasha says, which program would you recommend for a newbie? Well, Sasha, both of them are for people starting out. What you'll find in the coaching world is, for the most part, we don't have intermediate or advanced coaching because there's no market for it yet. There are some niche coaching things that people offer, but our program really is suited for people getting started out. For beginners. Now, granted, we do have some people who come in and they know a lot, and they'll just fly through the certification program and get tested and be done. But I'd say that we're very much suited for people who are new, or they have somewhat of a grasp on coaching, but they just need to get their training and certification out of the way. Or maybe we have some people who have gotten their training elsewhere, but they're looking at us to help them actually become successful and get the business up and going. So I really think that it is suited for new and intermediate kinds of people. It's suited for advanced people who have never done business, advanced coaches who have never done business, and vice versa. Annabella says, how long did it take you to become a full-time life coach? Well, again, this was not my intention to ever go full-time. So for me, it took a few years, but here's the reason why it took just a few years. It took a few years because I was very, very comfortable working my regular job and making a lot of extra money on the side. Because here's what I ended up doing as I started my practice. I was working with individuals, but I had some clients who worked in business because I loved working with entrepreneurs. And what I decided to do is go back to a school, and I got a team coaching certification. We show you in Jumpstart how to do multiple streams of income as a coach, because I don't want you thinking that you only have to get an individual to work with. That may, again, it doesn't take you long to even get free working with just a few individuals. But what I found working as a team coach is I would take a vacation day and I would make more money in one day than I would in more than 2 weeks of working at my regular job. But what I started doing is it was the first time in my life that we really had savings, and we had a lot of those other things. So I worked in that for a while, longer than I had to. But there were some other things that were going on in my life, and there were some spiritual reasons why I also didn't take the steps sooner. And that may not be a reason for other people, but for me, I felt like in the place that I was working and what I was doing, I didn't have a release yet, even though my income had come up. I was like, you know what? I'm going to stay here until I know that it's the right timing to go. I know the income is there. I know the opportunity is there to go. I'm also really comfortable, so I'm not stressing over it. But I'm going to wait until I know the timing is right. And when the timing came, I was out. I was like, okay. And the funny part was that my company that I was working for asked me to stay another month, and to start because they didn't have anybody who could replace me. So I did stay there for another month, but I knew when it was my time, and I think that that's different from one another. My end game was not to get out of there when I first started. It was just to create margins. But I literally did. I was making more as a coach than I was as an employee at this company, and that happened very very quickly. But I was also very comfortable in the sense that you know what I'm only working 10 extra hours a month. This is a pretty sweet deal, and if I wanted to work extra hours, I took a vacation day and went and worked with another company, and coached for a day. I negotiated those things. That's another reason why I have a lot of credibility to do this particular workshop, because I did that. And I guess it really depends on what your end game is, what your goals are. And so if your goal is go full time as quickly as you possibly can, then there are some real steps to go towards that. I had a lot of factors: family, health insurance, health of my wife, a lot of different things. But for me, the other part was just some spiritual reasons of I can't leave this place yet because I'm not done here with some of the things that I was connected to. And when I knew I had my release, then I was going. So my answer is a little bit more nuanced because it wasn't just a financial one, because I could have gotten out of there much earlier, much sooner than I actually did. Let me see what other questions we have on here. Let's see. What is the biggest? Okay. Mo says, do you help new coaches attain new clients? No, that's not my job. I'm a coach fundamentally. That's your job. And so I don't want that to sound offensive. You will know everything that you need to know. You'll know the steps that you need to take. But my job is not a marketing role in your life. It's to show you the next steps and to challenge you every week and every step of the journey to keep taking the steps towards that. And so I wouldn't have the time to do that anyway because I'm not a marketing firm. What we do is that we partner with you. Here's the things. Here's the steps that you need to take. We'll take a look at it. If you're having any barriers or blockages, then we'll help you think through those things and be very strategic about those purposes. But that's how we function. That's what our role is. Who or what is your biggest inspiration in life coaching and why? Um, Inspiration. I've got a lot of them, and for various different reasons. First one's got to be my wife and my kids. I'm raising three powerful women, and my wife's one of the most amazing people in the world with an incredible story that started long before I ever got in her life. So that's what I'm most committed to in my life are those people because they inspire me every day and they want me to be better. There's a few different people that have inspired me in terms of business and challenged me along the way. Different mentors and stuff that I've had in my life. I can't. And the reason why they did is mostly because of the risk that they were willing to take, but primarily the love that they have that for people that made them take the risk that they did. So people who are so in my top five of people who are inspirations, I have to make sure that they're taking care of their wife and their family really well. They need to have that as number one priority. Because if you're not credible at home, you're not credible in the world, in my opinion. I need to know that you will if you will sacrifice there, and you will do that at home with the people who see you every day, that they have bad breath when they wake up in the morning, and you do. If you can do that there, you can do it anywhere. And so those people who speak into my life and are most inspiring to me are doing those kinds of things. Second layer of it is that the things that they do in their life are bigger than them making money and just their career, that there's a bigger purpose and a greater end game. And for me, we're helping people get out of sex trafficking. There's a lady here in our area that has started a house particularly for kids who have been rescued out of sex trafficking, and they're rehabilitating. They seeing the value and worth in their lives. These are the end games that we give ourselves to, that I think are the byproduct of who we are. We're helping people in Cuba who there's some possibility for them to break in and become entrepreneurs and those kinds of things. So these are the things that I give my life to. But they've been inspiring people who have chosen to take who they are, their generosity, that's also given back to the world. So Lisa says, say I don't know anything at all about coaching, which program would you recommend? Honestly, if you know nothing about coaching, get into our free course. If you have any reservations, free course isn't going to slow you down. You can enroll in that today. It's the same content that we utilize in the certification course. The difference is there's not testing in it. But if you know nothing and you need to kick the tires of coaching or even us, then that's a possibility. But either way, if you know nothing, when you say you know nothing, the only concern that I have or a red flag is, okay, well, maybe this person hasn't made a decision about this in their life yet. That's a safe way of being able to get in, kick the tires, do the activities, and process through those modules and decide, hey, you know what? This actually is me. If you are a person who are like, man, coaching, and some of you emailed me and said, I am ready to step in and help people in their lives, and this is the mode that I'm going to do it in, then it's the next step. Then make that next bold choice. Lori says, these 100 network contacts, you write them and introduce yourself and ask them for referrals. Do you want them to give you names to cold call? I prefer, obviously when this original network, and for some of you, you're going to have more than 100. They all know me. These are people you already know when you put these people together. But I introduce why I'm doing what I'm doing, what I'm getting ready to do, who I help, and what problems that I help people solve, that messaging part. And I ask them for referrals. I ask them for at least 2 people. Now, if I can get those referrals, I'm not asking for just a phone number. At the least, they're introducing me by email, or they're introducing me via even, if it's appropriate, Facebook Messenger or something like that. But if I can get, these are warm leads. I don't want just names of people. I want to be able to have a recommendation from this person. This is a person you should talk to, and them to open the door. So that's what I'm leaning on. I'm leaning on that trust relationship rather than just having a cold call, because a cold call doesn't do me any good. If I'm going to do a cold call, I might as well just pull up the yellow pages online or something like that and start plowing through. I'm looking for that relationship to get me into a place of favor that I wouldn't have if I'm just cold calling. Hopefully that makes sense. Mo says, okay, cool, thank you. You're welcome. Sasha said, where can we find the free course you mentioned? If you go to ilifecoachtraining.com, which is our website, you'll hit the enroll now button. You'll see all 3 of our programs on there. There's the free course, there's a life coach certification course, and there's the jumpstart course. Those would be that's the place that you'll also go if you get the 35% discount code from me. You'll use it on that page and apply it to either any program that you want. Let me go ahead and look at a couple of the questions that were sent ahead of time. Actually, this is from Mo, who's on the call right now. My biggest challenge will be working around my 1-year-old and 5-year-old daughter, who are currently my full-time daytime responsibility. So I have to work around school, run early mornings or evenings around days I can get childcare covered. Encouragement I'll give you is we've had several coaches actually that I know personally. Much more than many that I don't really know that personally, that I know have kids and all of those things. One that I do know very personally, she's an academic life coach. She's in our Jumpstart program. She had an infant, so she went through a tough pregnancy, and taking care of an infant. She did all of her coaching calls via the phone, and she's brilliant at it. So she was able to negotiate those things, and I know it's tough, and I really huge props to the moms out there who are getting things started on top of everything else that you've got going. I know it seems really crazy, but it's not a daunting task. It's actually really possible. And so and so she was really funny because sometimes because she was a nursing mom and all of that other stuff, and so she's multitasking, and she had to make sure that she strategically placed their child in for a nap and different things, but she was very needed and pulled on while at the same time getting her business up and going. So I just know that it is possible. I want you to be encouraged with that. Um, Minja says, how do I keep customers motivated long term? Okay, so two parts that I'll say on this. There is a great book by Michael Pink called Drive. You can probably just read the summary of it, but he talks about some of the things that are the key motivators for people. And I would just defer part of that question to that because I think he's kind of done the research and everything else. One of those things is that people know that they are improving and that they are doing and they are getting better at what they're doing. Another thing is that people are doing what they are passionate about doing. Those are two really big key areas. And there's other ones that coaches work along with their clients on. But as a coach, one of the priorities, and I say this to our coaches, if you want a long-term relationship with a client, feedback is your best friend. Feedback needs to be constant. Every week, I'm giving them feedback. If I am improving and I know that I am taking steps and I am celebrated and I am being celebrated in my success and I'm having my success defined, because most people don't know how to define success for themselves. But if I can define success and have an agreement with that client on that, then every week that I work with them, it's probably going to be the most encouraging, most motivating thing that I will do every week. So my job as a coach is to always be soliciting feedback. Are you getting what you need from me? And then applying what that feedback is so that I can be who they need me to be as a coach. Because sometimes that relationship needs some adjustments. And as long as I am encouraging them that they are taking steps, I am celebrating them, I am encouraging them of how they have improved, that they are taking the steps. I am encouraging them to take steps towards the things that they are most passionate about doing. Then these are motivating factors that keep clients interested, keep them dug down, because some things that you're working on are kind of hard things. So these are the key motivators for people, and it also keeps them working with you. So if they know that this is going to be this is the most important hour of their week is being with you because of what they get, because what they get from you, they don't get from any other source in the world. Most people are unmotivated in their workplace because feedback's not very often. It's once a year, and everybody dreads that because it's like, how much of this is going to be bad? But if I kept someone encouraged every day, then I'm going to be much more motivated even in my work. So these are some of the practical things that we do with clients. Madison says, I know I am often quiet, but there's this feeling inside of me that it is ready to come out and be who I'm supposed to be. Do you believe it's possible to be someone so small and become this confident of a person that can pull someone's problems out of their bodies and turn them into this big Milky Way of hope? Well, here's what I'd say. No one's a small person. That's probably the first thing that I would say. Never see yourself as small. All of us occupy a really significant place in history, in time and space. I don't believe anybody's an accident. I don't believe that anybody is a coincidence. I have to ask the questions of, what am I here on the planet to do? What am I going to do with my choices today that have an impact out there on the world? And sometimes my choices may seem to be a really small one with the individual who is in front of me, with the people who are around me in traffic, or the workplace that I have, or whatever. But I am not a small person, because every choice I make has a significant impact with the people I live with, the people that I live around, all of those things. So I'm never going to believe that I'm small. But one thing that is true is that we all are different personality types. Not everybody needs to be an extrovert to be a leader. Not everybody needs to be an extrovert to be in business or do any of these things. As a matter of fact, in most cases as a coach, I had some and granted, I love my coaching mentor, so I'm not saying anything bad, and I wasn't discouraged by this at all. One of my mentors is Philip Sandow. He wrote the book Coactive Coaching. He's in the Bay Area. He's also the company. His company is also where I went through team coach certification. Um, but Philip and his CEO both looked at me and told me that I wasn't wired like a real coach, and I was like, "Well, what does that mean?" And they were like, "Well, personality-wise, you're not wired like a coach." And it's because most coaches are wired to be, many cases are much, uh, in many cases, a little bit more introverted, a little bit quieter. They leave a little bit more room. They're a little bit more contemplative. They're a little bit more thinking. And that's a very strong trait to have to draw that out because people need to be asked and they need to be given room and space. Now, you can coach and be any personality type. I've proven that. I'm a very loud, dominant personality as an individual, but I'm also an introvert. But I know what niche that I serve, and I get a lot of success out of the people that I work with. I know who my niche is, and we work really well together, and I'm a great coach. I think anybody can be a great coach if they ask brilliant questions, if they ask probing questions, if they truly love and care about the people that is across from them, and they will serve them in that way. They're going to see that turn. So I fully believe that you can switch that on. What you said is very telling. There's a feeling inside of me that's ready to come out and be who I'm supposed to be. Listen to that, because that is the real who, that in spite of anything that's happened in your life, let that voice speak the loudest. Don't allow the voices on the outside to tell you your worth, your identity, or any of those other things. What is this voice that's calling out to you in that? Respond to that, because I believe that your knower really knows. Um, that's the end of those questions that were sent ahead of time. Lisa said, thanks for the info. Going to enroll in certification training tomorrow. That's awesome, Lisa. Thanks so much. Kieran said, very helpful. Thank you. Mo says, great. Thank you. Um, Mo says, it's a bit unusual for me as I'm a dad. Forgive me for that. I don't know. When you sent that original email, I just, I assume. I have no idea why. Forgive me, but it's not unusual. I think that you're gifted, and you can stretch, and you can absolutely do this thing. There's things for me as I'm a dad that I realize in some form or fashion, I don't feel like I'm particularly graced to do things that my wife does, but I've always found a way to try to cover the bases and do those things. You have a strategic role in your kid's life, and I believe that you're very suited and you're amazing to be able to do this thing for sure. Any other questions before we finish up for the day? Annabella said this is great information. Thank you. Sasha said this is very helpful. Thank you. Mo says thank you. You guys are also welcome. I appreciate you so much for spending the extra time with me, answering so many brilliant questions and contributing. We will have this workshop, the replay, uploaded and added online within the next hour or two. So if you want a link to the replay, I will actually put that up here one more time. Link to the replay. Paul at ilifecoachtraining.com. If you want a link to the discount code, Paul at ilifecoachtraining.com. I'll send you an email with both of those things, but I appreciate you so much. Mo asked one final question that we'll take. He said, what does it take to be a great coach? Well, I think I answered some of those things a while ago. If you truly care about individuals, if you really love them, and I know that seems like a strange word, but I believe that there has to be something deeper in you, because it's never for us to be about the money or any of those other things. It's something that I need to see greatness in people. I need to be non-judgmental in the sense of I don't need to diagnose people or make them think like I think. What I need to do is I need to be truly believe in people. I need to believe the best about people. I need to hold out hope for them. I need to see something in them and call out the gold in them that maybe they don't see in themselves yet. And I do that by asking non-judgmental questions. I ask brilliant questions and I get them on point. What do you want? We need to clarify that. If they know what they want, then I can ask questions and I can hold them accountable for the things that they want. And so as I'm asking brilliant questions that draw this out, because the client, we believe, can come up with their own solutions. So I don't have to be in an advising role and I'm not giving them solutions. What I am doing is I'm asking them questions that they know the answer to because they're the expert on their life. And then when they start taking steps, I'm asking them to take steps towards what they want in their life. I'm not just giving them pep talks. I want to ask them questions and get them to take action on what they say they want. Every time that we meet, they are taking action steps. Every time that we meet, I'm holding them accountable for what they say that they wanted, anything that were in their action steps, and helping them find due north and keep moving forward and keep pushing them forward. And I'm keeping them motivated because I'm helping them define success and celebrating success every time. And if I draw feedback from them to make sure that I'm doing those very things, then you become a great coach. Those are the things that it really takes. I only know if I'm being successful if I'm really drawing out of people and grabbing that kind of feedback. So hopefully that's helpful. You're welcome, Mo. Thank you guys so much for joining us again. I'm one email away if you have any other follow-up questions or anything else, or if you're interested in any of the things that we offered. Keep being great. Keep taking steps towards what you want. Take the boldest choice. Do what the boldest version of yourself would do today, because that's the right next step for your life. Have a great rest of your week. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.